Good morning and welcome back. It is now September the 26th. It's going to be October here before we know it. Should be beautiful weather this week. No risk of frost apparently, and highs in the high 20s, so it'll be almost like a return to summer for a little bit here. You can see behind me this barley stubble is really greening up. There was some check strips in here that were left for hail insurance adjusters. They have now been cleaned up. So now it is time to come in here and control this volunteer barley. There's the odd spot here and there that the barley does look like it has been touched by a bit of frost here from last week. But overall, it's pretty minor. In the meantime, this stuff is still soaking up nutrition and water, and we can't afford for it to do that. Well, it's cool enough this morning. You can actually see some steam coming off these manure piles as they compost. So that's interesting to see. Got to have cool air in order to see that in the morning. Here you can see on the edge of this potato field where this patch hasn't been mowed yet, we do have quite a patch of Russian thistle going on in here. Now there is kochia in here as well. You can see the difference between the kochia here, which is a little bit taller, spindlier, doesn't have spikes, and the Russian thistle, which similarly structured plant, but generally lower growing and covered with these sharp little spikes. And then mixed in with all this, we have buckwheat and morning glory, which is kind of binding everything together, making a real issue. So when these patches don't get mowed, it's really given the potato harvester quite a problem with these vines wrapping around the rollers. Well, last night we didn't have a super heavy dew, so the canola is drying out already. It is 10 a.m. Combines are back in the field already, so there's about 4 case combines are working around this canola here, and sounds like it's yielding pretty well, up to 80 bushels. So doing good for considering how long it's been standing. It's been repeatedly rained on, been through windstorms, still doing really good. Now you can really see that this corn here around Nobleford is really starting to dry down. Just from even the sound walking into the field, you can hear it's getting a little crispy. So definitely we've been frosted down as far as the ears, sometimes a little bit farther. You can see these lower leaves are kind of crisping up in here. So this is really starting to dry down fast now. No doubt this will get silaged this week. Here's an interesting cover crop field. This is oats and a brassica rape for grazing that has been seeded on top of soft wheat silage. So we've got a decent stand of oats, and we've got a somewhat decent stand of brassicas in here, but they've just been getting the absolute crap kicked out of them by flea beetles, just like everything else. So they're being a little slow to get established, but they are in here. But what it's really doing is preventing us from controlling a lot of other weeds, and that's one of the problems with cover crops. If you don't get a really thick catch, then it can have troubles with some weeds, particularly with perennial weeds that tend to kind of ignore a little bit of the crop competition, like these Canada thistles. So this is a probably thick enough stand. It's going to compete pretty well with things like kochia, but yeah, Canada thistle is a whole other story, and there's nothing we can spray in here to control it without killing the rape. This dryland field of L233P did get hailed on before it had a chance to be combined, so this was several weeks ago now. So you can see how much volunteer we have on the ground here, so it even shows you no matter how good a pod shadow protection you have, you can still get shelling and end up with a lot of volunteer. So let's take a quick look underneath here. It's been long enough now, you can't really see a whole lot of pods or anything on the ground, but obviously there was a fair bit because of all the seed that's on the ground here, and therefore volunteer. So that's super nice to see. Amazing to see that even after a year, there's still a whole pile of volunteer lentils in here from the year before. Well, here's a black cricket, and these guys, there's been a bit of chatter about lately on social media. These guys are actually predator of grasshopper eggs. They're kind of a predator of opportunity. However, they can also be a crop pest. In this area, there's not a whole lot of them, but I have seen reports down and around Cardston area that sometimes their populations can get high enough that they can do significant feeding damage to a crop, similar to grasshoppers. But myself, I haven't seen anything along those lines yet. Well, there's lots of silaging underway this week. These summer seeded oats are nicely headed out now and mostly filled pretty well into the dough stage. So these guys have all been swathed and they're getting chopped and piled and packed right now. Over here, there's a bunch of corn coming off, so that is starting up in earnest now as well, especially since the frost. Some of it is drying down pretty rapidly, so let's get some drone footage. Here behind me is another Canadian food grains field, so this one is out by Granum. So just waiting for a few more combines to show up. There's only 2 here at the moment, so it's supposed to be shotgun start at 1 o'clock, and we're not too far away from that. So hopefully a few more show up. It'd be nice to get at least 3 different colors of combines going in here. Thursday now down by McGrath. A few little drops of rain coming down here and there, but overall not too bad. You can see this winter wheat is starting to come up, so it's mostly just emerging in a 1-leaf stage. So in some spots it's still a little hard to see the rows, but you can see them pretty good here, and it looks like we're off to a pretty decent start at the moment. Down in this McGrath area, it seems like harvest is pretty much 100% done. There might still be a few acres here and there of flax or canola, but for the most part my guys down here are done. But around Lethbridge, Nobleford area, there's still some corn to come off. Now that the crop is off, it's the best time of the year to control foxtail barley. If you got patches like this, you're going to have a lot better options for control in the fall here, especially as far as glyphosate rates go. To control this in the fall, you can get away with a lot lower rate in the fall if it's still nice and green and healthy like this. In the spring, you're kind of fighting with timing to get it sprayed ahead of, you know, wheat or something like that coming up, and you'd have to use a heck of a lot more glyphosate, you know, like 1.5 liters to 2 liters an acre to get a patch like this under control. Whereas in the fall, you can probably get a pretty decent kill with just a 1/2 liter. Here's a good representation of what barley yellow dwarf will do in an oat crop this time of the year. So generally the most severe damage you get from this is the younger the oats, the more severe the damage. And you can see that here in this patch. This infection came in a few weeks ago. Prior to heading, it has stunted this and it is limiting heading. You can see that kind of coppery color to some of the leaves kind of turning into a reddish bronze color here. So that's pretty distinctive. And in the areas where the infection moved in later, you can see we are much taller, thicker, more lush crop that is starting to head. However, even that is being significantly impacted for the most part across this field. We've also had some meetings and gotten some more information on some of the federal nitrogen reduction programs available here now. So I'll show a little bit of that, but really it's too long of a topic to cover in a less than 10-minute video. But here's a little bit anyways. The two main programs you can take advantage of here right away is going to be the Canola Council and the RDAR program. So the Canola Council program, as shown here, you can find through their website. It is going to pay you money in order to do soil samples as well as use nitrogen stabilizers up to 85% of the cost of both. The second program, which is going to be administered by RDAR, as shown here, is also a very comprehensive program which can pay up to 85% for nitrogen stabilizers, as well as some other technology to help along with that. As you can see, the application deadline is for November 7th, so that's coming up pretty fast. Both these programs, you're going to have to fill out an application form and likely have it signed off by a CCEA or PAG agronomist such as myself. These programs are going to help you pay for products such as this. We do have several different stabilizers that will qualify. I'm just using this one as an example. This is Active Stabilizer Plus. This is a Taurus product. These kind of products are going to save you money on the farm by reducing your nitrogen loss, making better value out of what you've put down on the ground. This chart here was calculated out with a urea price of $600 a metric ton and canola price at $13 a bushel, and you can see total peace of mind over on the right hand side. You can see there's significant money to be made per acre. Now bear in mind, of course, those costs are way out of track compared to what is currently available, and if the government is paying up to 85% of the cost of this product and you're only paying 15%, you can see that there is substantial gains to be made. And that'll be it for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.